Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back. Remember, you could join us in the Freedom Zone, and you're going to want to be in there today. What you going to learn about the money missing in the government and Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, yeah, that's worth the price of admission to the Freedom Zone, which is less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. Hit that join button under any title on YouTube or click the more button in the description box and join us on Patreon. This is the place to be, ladies and gentlemen. What a great way to support the channel. We appreciate each and every one of you to do. $2.68 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is up 5.1%, and I think we all know why, and we're going to get into it today. 81,900 plus for Bitcoin, 1,600 plus for Ethereum. XRP number 4 spot, $2.02. We're up 14.2% in the 24-hour. Off 0.4 on the 7-day, ranging price between $1.77 and $2.08. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's get started right here, ladies and gentlemen. It's Matt Hougan, who will be on stage at XRP Las Vegas. Go to XRPLasVegas.com and get your tickets, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a remarkable conference, the 2 days, and the knowledge you're going to learn. I'm telling you, and the people you're going to meet, the relationships you're going to solidify are going to be remarkable. Listen to what Matt Hougan says here about the moment we're in.
I think it's held up exceptionally well. I think Bitcoin bulls should be inspired by the performance, and it's set up to rally significantly if we get a period of stability in the broader equity markets. It's worth remembering the last time we had true economic chaos during the start of COVID, Bitcoin wicked down to $5,000 and even below that. Today, we're talking about $80,000. It's a different asset. It has a broader distribution of institutional ownership. And again, I think what it's telling you is once this market volatility stabilizes, we're going to see it return to new all-time highs and then beyond. It's really a display of strength from my perspective. I think it's held up exceptionally well.
There. Matt is super bullish on Bitcoin in the moment we're in this space, which I think speaks to the entire crypto market. Shout out to Matt. Can't wait to get him on stage at XRP Las Vegas. Get your tickets, XRPLasVegas.com. We will be cutting the ticket sales off at some point. I get a lot of messages from people that I just wanted to get. I can't. You know, you got to get your ticket. SEC greenlights options trading on spot Ethereum ETFs, including ones from BlackRock, Bitwise, and Grayscale. This is the market heating up, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not going to stop. And here is Scott Bessent laying it down, ladies and gentlemen, a level playing field. How many times have we heard this phrase? And now we're hearing it directly from the U.S. Secretary of Treasury. Oh my.
For too long, financial policy has served large financial institutions at the expense of smaller ones. No more. No more. This administration aims to give all banks the chance to succeed, whether it's JP Morgan or your local mortgage and loan. It aims to get capital to Americans who need it by getting bureaucracy out of the way. For the last 4 decades, basically since I began my career in Wall Street has grown wealthier than ever before, and it can continue to grow and do well. But for the next 4 years, the Trump agenda is focused on Main Street. It's Main Street's turn. It's Main Street's turn to hire workers. It's Main Street's turn to drive investment. And it's Main Street's turn to restore the American dream.
Banking community, there's a few banks that kind of sit on the top of the entire global payments infrastructure. And all the other banks end up paying them to help settle the global liquidity that's required for commerce, for small businesses, for retail. And across the board, it's kind of amazing that we still live in a world where to send money to London today, the fastest thing for you or I to do would be to drive to, well, for you, for SFO, for me here in New York, to JFK or Newark, and fly the money to London.
So to some degree, really boil it down, Ripple's competing with the liquidity of Citi and the messaging of SWIFT, but in one.
If you hold fiat for, let's say, an average SWIFT transaction today is in the order of magnitude 2 days, that's about 180,000 seconds. An XRP transaction is 3 seconds. So if you take a low volatile asset times a long duration, fiat, or a high volatility asset versus a very, very short amount of time, it turns out mathematically there's less volatility risk in an XRP transaction than there is in a fiat transaction.
Isn't that interesting? It sure is. Shout out to DAI for that collage. You know what? The reason we're going to talk about that today is because we have to talk about the tariffs. And the tariffs are going to lead into what I believe is a transition to the new digital on-chain economy. But I want to remind everybody, in case you've been in a coma, Ripple is acquiring Hidden Road for $1.25 billion that has over $3 trillion processed and cleared and settled every year. Over 300 of the top industry financial institutions globally doing 50 million transactions a day at the tune of $10 billion a day. That's what's coming. 3 trillion on the XRP ledger. Makes sense why they printed a minute another 350,000 plus real USD. They're ramping up, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be so good when it all goes live, when we know that the legislation is supposed to be on the desk for the president to sign by August. Speaking of the president, we know we had tariff issues, and yesterday, President Trump put this out. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I'm hereby raising the tariff charge by China to the United States as 125% from the 104% he put in place just really hours before that. Effective immediately, at some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Department of Commerce, Treasury, and the U.S. TR, to negotiate a solution to subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States. So, he has authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lower reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, in other words, China's being left out in the cold because they don't want to act right. I have said in the Freedom Zone, this has been a great discussion. Let me let this clip play and I'll fill you in.
Successful negotiating strategy that President Trump implemented a week ago today. It has brought more than 75 countries forward to negotiate. It took great courage for him to stay the course until this moment. And what we have ended up with here, as I told everyone a week ago, they're in this very spot, do not retaliate and you will be rewarded. So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them, and China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
Well, I tell you what, that's how you screw the pooch right there, China. Right? Looks like you screwed the pooch on that one. And what did Donald Trump tell everybody while the markets were bleeding and everybody out here who has no idea how to negotiate a new deal is screaming bloody murder? I'm watching my retirement vaporize right in front of my eyes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know, the week. And you know what's fascinating to me? I've gone on this in the private group in the Freedom Zone. It's fascinating to me how powerful Lamestream media still is. And it's either how powerful Lamestream media is or how soft-minded, like soft-headed infants, a lot of these people that are still allowing the Lamestream media to shape their news and their thoughts every day. Just like a soft-headed infant. Because President Trump came out during that bleed and said, this is a great time to buy. Buy that dip, right? And then, as it turns out, he lifts the tariffs.
That is used a lot in business, actually. And let me kind of explain this, because this is a negotiation tactic that is used a lot in business, actually, because a lot of times businesses have allies. In other words, you can go sell to someone else, you can buy from someone else. That's kind of the position that China was in, or believes that they were in, because the whole world was getting hit with tariffs. Now, most of the countries have said, hey, we're willing to negotiate. We realize that. They've come to the negotiation table. Trump has rewarded them and instead has pressured China now to become on an island and have to go head to head with the United States and now maybe the rest of the world. And
it's interesting because this is one of those moments where China tried to do the Will Ferrell's character in Old School. Hey, we're going streaking through the quad. But no one showed up but you, right? China's out in the cold right now, Jack, and they want to make a deal. President Trump has said it. This is what came back to the market in a day. $5.5 trillion added to the U.S. stock market, by the way, and a better deal on tariffs with over 75 nations plus the $5.5 trillion back. Come on in. This is the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, so many people don't have their eyes open. But why am I showing you all this? I'm going to tell you why I'm showing you all this. First of all, this is what it looks like to realize that moment that President Trump told us to buy stocks and then pause tariffs, setting up everyone versus China. Yeah, that's about what it looks like. That's right. When you can detach yourself from your political ideology, that's exactly what you should be feeling right here, right? But if you're married to a political ideology so deeply, it's like a tattoo, there's no seeing it ever for you, right?
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million.
There you go. In a day, he's bragging because the markets are back on with Charles Schwab making $2.5 billion in a day. I'm showing all of this because what I believe is that we're moving to a more macro moment, which is a new Bretton Woods. As you were going to hear Scott Bessent, the current U.S. Treasurer, say, is the reason he took this job is because he wants to be a part of this new Bretton Woods moment. But what was Bretton Woods? Well, quickly, Bretton Woods was what was created when they established the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. But not so fast. Before the dollar became the world reserve currency, John Maynard Keynes, an economist, pitched the idea of something called the Bancor coin, B-A-N-C-O-R coin. The Bancor coin was to work effectively as an intermediary asset, but they didn't have the technology to really pull it off. And there was a lot of other details that went along with it, like you couldn't hold more than 3% gain of whatever you had in that particular Bancor coin, or a 3% loss. You had to stay in a range to make sure people wouldn't hoard it. But the reality for me is we have the innovation and the technology now to actually have a new Bretton Woods moment, which that transition is a new monetary infrastructure will be introduced. And that new monetary infrastructure is a new digital on-chain economy. And I happen to believe the XRP ledger that has a built-in decentralized exchange for the world to use will be one of those important protocols to this new monetary infrastructure. It also will allow XRP to sit in the middle of all the sovereign currencies of the world without challenging them for dominance, but yet working as an insulator and a bridge to complement the world's money, making it so currency manipulation can no longer happen from country to country because something like XRP sits in between it all. And now if countries want to do any manipulation to their own currency, it can only affect the citizens in their nation itself. Because if you're just using XRP to interchange with everyone, you can't harm other people with your own manipulation of currency and the fact that you can print it. And that goes for the U.S. too. Ultimately, I see a transition from the Fed to the Treasury. That's what I see coming. But you know what? Let's hear this really quickly again.
I think as an economic historian and someone who's been in markets for 40 years, I actually think I'm starting to look like it now, is, I think we're also at a unique moment geopolitically, and I could see in the next few years that we are going to have some kind of a grand global economic reordering. There's something on the equivalent of a new Bretton Woods, or if you want to go back, like something back to the steel agreements or the Treaty of Versailles. There's a very good chance that we are going to have to have that over the next 4 years, and I'd like to be a part of it.
I think you get the point right there. And you don't get to be a part of it if you don't negotiate new trade deals and tariffs with the world. That's what's at stake here. You don't tokenize the government and the banks, for which the executive order was just signed by Trump to do, unless you do what first? Have the Department of Government Efficiency come in and scan all the government agencies for waste, abuse, and fraud. Then you tokenize them on the blockchain, where it'll be immutable and we can catch anybody doing anything, but at least they're not tokenizing all the abuse, fraud, and waste onto the new system. And isn't it the same here on a larger level on the global stage? Negotiate new tariffs before you put everything onto blockchain for the new supply trade infrastructure that's going to happen for the world. That's what I see taking place here. And I absolutely see the moment where something like the XRP ledger and XRP can play a massive role in it. No question about it. And he says it's going to happen. If it's up to the Treasury, it's happening in the next 4 years. How about that one? Eggrad Crypto says symmetrical triangle says $30. And if we're just looking at this at the last pump from 2017 cycle, which was an incredible 2,600%, starting from $1.20, if we see a retracement back to the edge of the triangle, then $30 is definitely within reach. He says men lie, women lie, but charts don't lie. And this chart is screaming $30. Come on in. You know what? Doesn't upset me. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. We're going into the freedom zone. Oh, I hope you will join us today, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we're going to get started. You're going to want to know about it. Is it treason? Well, let's get in here and find out. Again, not financial advice from me or anyone else. Come on in.